Hey there, it's Reem here, and I have been playing Conquest for about a year now, and just been having some fun with it. And one of the main factions I've been playing is Hundred Kingdom. And after the recent rework, I've been doing a bunch of list building. And there's 5 different ranged units in the Hundred Kingdoms, and I was trying to go through the pros and cons of them, and I ended up just making a little slideshow about to keep track of it, and I thought I'd share it with other people and see if other people were interested. I wanted to highlight one of the stats you're going to see on the slides. It's called the efficiency stat, and for me, that is just the MSU points per expected hit outside of effective range and not aimed. So essentially, just a standard shot, no modifiers to what it says on the data sheet of barrage and volley versus how much you're paying for just the base unit. Just kind of going to give everyone a benchmark, something to compare to. I think this works really well for ranged units since their defensive stats don't matter too much. Most ranged units, if they get hit by anything, they're going to die as far as, if a melee unit hits them. And we'll highlight some differences outside of that. But for efficiency, I think the offensive output, how many hits you're going to get, is probably the most important one. And with that, lower is better. Obviously, you want to spend less points for more hits. And I'm recording this here. Just put a date stamp for future reference. All right, first slide. So first one in the list, we have the Hunter Cadre. You can see it's 160 points. Stats here that I've chosen to highlight is its range and barrage, volley, and then of course movement, resolve, defense, and evasion. So range 16, pretty average. Barrage 3, pretty average. Volley 2, pretty average. Movement 6 is fairly decent. Most of the infantry in 100 Kingdoms is 5. Where the unit really shines as far as stats is they are Resolve 3 and Evasion 2, which are the highest in 100 Kingdoms for ranged units. So gotta love that. For keywords, I'm including what subfaction they're in with the keywords. So we got Imperial, their Armor Piercing 1, Cleave 1, Fearless, Fiend Hunter, and Flank. I've highlighted those two green because they are just excellent keywords to have. Fiend Hunter is full rerolls against monsters and brutes, and then Flank is you don't have to roll to come in. So great, very reliable to come in, and they're really good at taking out brutes and monsters. Or at least they get the rerolls, and it's hard to get rerolls with volleys. Next on down, you'll see expected hits. So at standard range, or outside of effective range, non-aimed, you're going to get about 3.3 hits, or then 5 hits if you aim. And then effective, you see it jumps up a little bit because you get that extra barrage. You get 4.3 and 6.5. So not a ton of hits, but definitely good at chipping away at larger brute stands or monsters, or finishing off wounded ones. That gets us to our efficiency stat. So we're using that 160 points we're paying for the MSU versus the standard shot here, that first number. Gets you 48.5. Couple of notable features about this is it's the only medium ranged unit that 100 Kingdom has. So they're going to be coming in round 2. They have Null Mage Officer, not a lot of officers for ranged units on 100 Kingdoms, and it gives you Deadly Shot and Deadly Blades against essentially, I believe it's Priest and Wizard. Essentially, you get extra hits on defense rolls of 6 if they have those keywords. So it's kind of situational. I believe it's 20 points for the officer, but it's interesting. The other notable thing here is that they're actually a solid melee option. They are Clash 4 with 4 attacks. Or Clash... That might be incorrect. Might be Clash 3. But the point is, all the other ranged units on 100 Kingdoms are pretty garbage at like Clash 1 with 4 attacks. So this can actually get in there. However, just because they have Evasion 2, Resolve 3 doesn't mean they want to get in there. If you need to, they can. If they get charged and don't die, they can fight them off, but I would not rely on the melee. Or I would not go for the melee. I'd try and use them as a ranged unit as much as possible. And then also for warbands, they're Imperial Officer restricted only. So a little bit of another, well, obviously restriction against them. A little bit harder to get in your army. All right, next unit. We had the Imperial Ranger Corps. This is the whole reason I decided to make the slideshow, as I kept looking on them in paper and trying to compare them to other units, and they are just a little bit interesting and odd. So here we are. They are 120 points, so relatively cheap. Their range 16, barrage 3, volley 3. That should be highlighted green. So only volley 3 in the entire faction. They're also movement 6, they're resolve 2, defense 1, and they also have evasion, which the other three do not. The other three range units do not have the evasion stat. So pretty good defensively compared to the other ones. Keywords are Imperial as well. Fluid Formation, highlighted green. That's an excellent keyword for ranged units as well. It allows them to shoot out of any arc. So you can do the whole fluid formation at the start of your turn, like turn around, face backwards to the enemy, essentially shoot behind you and then march away. If you are getting like pressed in by enemies, you still get your shooting. I've highlighted in yellow, they have Vanguard 3 and Advanced Scout training. The Vanguard 3 is good. The reason how come I just highlighted it is because the Imperial officers whole thing is it can give Vanguard 4 to 2 units every round if he's a warlord or dynastic ally. So it can kind of be a little redundant to get Vanguard 3. You need like 3 units to be coming in and around in order to get the, you choose this Vanguard and give the other 2 units that don't have Vanguard. So it could come up, but I don't think it's the most, it's just a little redundant, I guess. And then the Advanced Scout training gives you obstruction against other enemy volley attacks. It specifically says volley, so it doesn't help you out with magic, to my understanding, and it's 15 points. I mean, if you got the points to make them veteran to get that Advanced Scout training, it helps out a little bit with their survivability and like ranged warfare. But I would probably be looking to spend the points elsewhere. If you go to your expected hits here, at standard, you're expected to get 5 hits on just a non-aim shot, and then 6.6 on the aim shot, and then effective, of course, we go up a little bit more because you get those extra shots. So you get 6.5 and 8.5. So pretty good hits, solid number of hits, and it really helps out the efficiency. They're a relatively cheap unit at 120. Divided by 5 is 24, where the Hunter Cadre are at 48. Notable thing I chose to highlight with them is they score with the IO attached. That's the Imperial Officer. Imperial Officer seems like it could go well into this MSU as long as you play them cagey and don't get them killed right away. The Imperial Officer isn't like a great melee character, so you're not too sad about not having them in with a melee focused unit. So could work here to get the IO in sooner, and it can make the unit score. And once again, this unit is also limited to the Imperial Officer, but they're not restricted, so it also unlocks units like the Hunter Cadre. Next, we have the Longbowmen, which are 140 points. Stat-wise, they have the range 22 highlighted green, one of the best ranges, I believe, in the game, and for sure the whole faction. They are barrage 3, volley 2, still movement 6, resolve 2, defense 1, but they no longer have evasion. Or they don't have evasion like the previous 2 that we've talked about. They are feudal. They have armor piercing 1. They have cleave 1, arcing fire, and advanced target training. And I've highlighted the advanced target training because I'm not going to get into characters too much, but if it's very possible that you're getting that for free just due to the feudal rules. If one of the feudal characters that's bringing this unit is the dynastic ally or the warlord, you're going to get the advanced target training for free. And what that gives you an extra volley on 11 inches or less. So with an aim shot, you can actually get up to volley 4, which is really good. Then let's get into our expected hits. It's the same stat line I think we've seen before, 3.35 when you aim, and then an effective 4.3 to 6.5. Efficiency then comes down at 42.4. Whoops, got ahead of myself. Notable best case is expected to be 8.5 hits, and that's, of course, if you are at 11 inches, so you're in effective range, you have advanced target training, you're aimed but not arcing fire, you're hitting on 4s, you can expect 8.5 hits at armor piercing 1. For warbands, they are restricted to all of the noble lords. Now that I check that, I believe Crusader is included, but it might not be the Crusader lord. I think it is. So yeah, pretty solid unit, and the range, range is one of the most important things in a ranged unit. It helps you outshoot the enemy. I will also highlight that arcing fire allows you to shoot over obstacles and your own stands if need be. It's kind of a win more, I think, or it helps you if you misplay. I think most of the time your ranged units should have clear shots, or they should be planning to shoot brutes or monsters that are tied up by infantry so you can shoot over them anyway. But it is a useful keyword when you need it. Next, Mercenary Crossbowsman, one of everybody's favorite in Hunter Kingdom, and we'll see why. They recently got their range reduced to 16, but the barrage is still 3, volley 2. Their movement 5, so they lose a little bit of movement, resolve 2, defense 1. They're Imperial, they're also armor piercing 1, and they also have advanced target training. It costs them 15 points to make them veteran to get this, and without the feudal keyword, you won't be picking it up for free. Standard, you have the same profile as the longbowman, so you have the same expected hits as the longbowman. The efficiency goes to, whoops, that should be 110, not 140. The number is correct, though, 33.3. So once again, a little bit more efficient than the longbowman, but you're definitely losing the range. Notable thing here is that it scores with a chapter mage attached, very much like the Imperial officer. It can just grab that chapter mage, and as long as you play the unit relatively safe, the character will be safe. And as far as warbands go, they can be in the Imperial officers, the chapter mages, the mounted noble lords, or the noble lords. So pretty good diverse range of units that it can be in, or warbands it can be in. So definitely a solid unit to pick up if you're looking to build out your army, just for the simple fact that they're cheap and they can kind of go into any warband that you're probably bringing, unless you're bringing, well, you can't combine orders with these. So let's go to the last one. Last, we have the Militia Bowmen at 80 points. Funny enough, they're still range 16. They're still barrage 3, but their volley goes down to 1. Move 5, resolve 2, defense 1. So same defensive stats as a crossbowsman, and movement stats. They're feudal and feast. They have very poor expected hits, as you can see. Although if you aim them, 3.3 on a standard aimed is basically what you're getting a crossbowsman base. So if you're getting your aim shots, they're as good as a crossbowsman who isn't aiming. Efficiency, though, is pretty poor. If we use that standard, 80 divided by 1.6 is 50. Notable things here about the militia bowman are that it can pair with the priest, as in the priest can kind of do what the chapter mage and imperial officer were doing. They can just use it as a regiment to be in and hide in the back without wasting too many points. They are the cheapest 100 Kingdom unit, so if you just are looking for points to spend and you're like, I need a buffer unit, like a unit that's gonna just sit on the flank of one of my other units, I don't want to get charged in the side and they can just die, and I'm gonna spend 80 points for that, they can do that. Also, funny enough, if you add one stand to them for 25 points, they can score for 105 points, which is cheaper than an MSU of uh, men at arms. So if you're really short 5 points and you want another scoring unit and you can't get the men at arms, get the militia bowmen. There are also in a wide range of warbands: Imperial Officer, Noble Lords, the Order of the Errant of the Shield, and the Theist Priest. Alright. So, takeaways here. What I found interesting about this whole exercise was just seeing that every unit has a purpose. At first glance, it kind of looks like, there's maybe some overlap, but, you got your cheap throwaway units, you got your melee and range specialists, you got your super long range, you got the Merc crossbows, excuse me, Merc crossbows and rangers were probably the exercise or the reason I wanted to do this whole exercise. And looking at the efficiency, you can kind of see the difference. Merc crossbowsmen suffer a little bit defensively, and they're a little bit slower. Still a solid unit, and if that armor piercing one matters. If you're shooting something that doesn't have hardened, doesn't have evasion stat that it's going to fall back on, it gets you that, it's going to convert the hits into actual damage. The Rangers, however, you're not paying for a keyword that you might not use. Like, their hits are hits. If they got hardened, it doesn't matter. Recently, I've been playing with longbows, and, nothing feels worse than, well, longbows and Merc crossbow. When you get shots on a monster and the monster has hardened, it can, it negates your whole keyword. So it's like I'm paying extra for that keyword, and the keyword isn't doing anything in the unit. So hits are hits. But then, yeah, of course, looking at the efficiency ranking, most efficient rangers and the crossbows and the longbows and the cadre. A little bit of an asterisk there because I think you're paying extra for that melee ability and the fiend hunter. Really solid unit. And then the militia, not very efficient whatsoever, but does have a purpose. As I've already pointed out, the cadre do have the benefit of being mediums, and they're good in clashes. And the null mage, if you've got 20 points to spend, looks really cool as well, and might prove useful. And they can score without needing an extra stand. The biggest highlight, I've mentioned a couple times, is the Rangers are surprisingly efficient. I was deciding if I should build a unit of Rangers or buy and build a unit of Rangers. I think after doing this exercise, I'd probably buy at least one box. I might buy 2 boxes of Rangers to try them out. And just see how they do on the table. See if what, it shows on paper actually plays out on the table. See if those keywords that the other units have actually do make them better. And it's, the Rangers are just going to be hitting stuff, but they're going to get all their stuff saved because the defense stats are too high. A couple other considerations here I wanted to highlight as well is that there's a couple other things in 100 Kingdoms that can modify volley attacks. I just thought I'd point them out here. So the Imperial Officer can get Murderous Volley, which is a 12-inch resolve test. I mean, I didn't think it was worth highlighting. He can give it to any one of these units as long as it's on the battlefield and it's within, I think, 8 inches of the Imperial Officer. Resolve tests, you're not doing that many hits with range attacks, as we kind of went over, so making them do resolve attacks, it's nice. But I think you probably have better things to do with it, like giving hardened and other keywords. The other thing that I could find that modifies 100 Kingdom is the Chapter Mage, specifically Air. I might do a separate video just to go over the Mage, because there's a lot to go over there, and another whole pro-con thing with all the different schools. But the thing that I've seen brought up in Discords and stuff in conversations is, she has this guide spell which lets you re-roll 6s on a volley. Well, just doing the simple math here, you would be expected to get 1 extra hit per 12 shots on a unit that has a volley of 3, which is very, very poor. Like if you're a fire mage, a fire mage I think is 18 inches, so even the range is better than most of the stuff unless it's 100 Kingdoms Longbowmen. It's you're just going to have better conversion of damage with fire, like actual damage spells. It lets you split damage essentially. Like if the mage wants to hit one thing in the to try and kill it, and then the ranged unit's going to hit something else, good, some more utility that way. You'd need so many stands to get the extra expected damage up higher than what you would get from like Fire Dart or even, their basic spell. What is it? Elemental Missile. It's just 3 standard hits. You don't even need the roll for them. Like, that's 36 shots to match just the basic spell that she can do guaranteed. It's really hard to get a unit with 36 shots. I think it's fun, it's neat, it's definitely, you do these war games and you like, getting rerolls is one of the best things you can do. Uh, Usually just to, increase the efficiency or, how much damage you're converting, but in this case, I think it's a trap. There are better things to be doing with your mages than looking at the air school. But maybe we'll have a whole separate video on that. Let me know if you want a video on the chapter mage, if you found this interesting, if I should do this kind of video for like cavalry or infantry, for another faction's ranged units. It's a lot of fun to do. I learned some stuff from this, and I hope you all did too. You all have a great day.